Hello and welcome to The Rusted Brush. Today, I'm going to be showing you how I batch paint my Conquistador infantry. To begin with, I'll tell you how I decided on my color scheme for my force. If you haven't seen my video on beginning my army, I recommend you watch that first to get a better idea of the overall plan. To keep it simple, it's based on the tercios and conquistadors of the Spanish Empire. So, how do I decide on a color scheme? Well, generally speaking, the tercios and conquistadors didn't really have a strict color scheme, or uniform from what I know, which is going to be an important part of how I paint them. However, I don't want the force to have too many color variations, as this is going to make the army less cohesive, and this will be a lot more time to paint as well. To begin with, I want to have two predominant colors, and then some minor colors to splash in to add variety and break up too much uniformity. If you ever wanted to make a themed army, or an army based on lore, it's always good to make a plan for color choices. Make sure to research your inspirations. I find collecting images and copying literature helps me make a decision on how I decide to paint my force. So for my predominant colors, I went for red and yellow. These are the most common colors you're going to see for the representation of Spain in general. It's also the colors of Estalian Warhammer, which makes sense. Also, almost every piece of media, Conquistadors and tercios show at least some red. I also don't want to stick to any specific shade of a color either. I use different reds and yellows to help break up too much uniformity and give them some personality. As for minor colors to add in, I splash in some green, white, gray, and brown. I do splash in black as well, but very little. I will save this for the higher nobility for my force, as black dye on clothing was actually really expensive in real life. In the Warhammer universe, this isn't true of course, but I still want to do this as a way to denote my commanders and higher-ups. Now let's begin the painting part. To start with, I prime my models with Corax White Primer. I'm going to be batch painting my models like I'm on a factory line. Speed paints and contrast paints make it way easier to paint large amounts of models. I'm not looking for an immaculate paint job. I'm looking for something to paint models in a short time. I'm going to leave a list of the paints I used here instead of going through each one, as this is just going to be a lot of paints. I switch between different colors and styles of painting, using a specific color on just pants or sleeves, one half of the model, making checkered patterns, or just the yellow and red, or just using one of those colors. Now I painted these in batches of 15 to 20 models. When I pick a certain paint, I use that paint on every model I want to have that color and repeat the process. Certain paints I did highlight after the speed paint or contrast dried. It's to brighten them up and looks a lot nicer. This is always something you can do later on as well, if you just want to play with the models right away. Once I have all the clothing done and any wooden bits done, I move on to painting the armor and weapons. This is a lot simpler. I use the broadsword silver speed paint, then paint over with AK natural steel, and then give it a wash of Nuln Oil. Once it's dry, I highlight again with natural steel, and if I want it to look nicer like on a sergeant or a captain, I highlight the edges with AK dark aluminum. The last part of the model to paint was the skin, and I kept it simple. Crusader skin or warrior skin speed paint. Now let's move on to basing. To start with, I paint the base with goblin green from Coat d'Arms. I want that old school Warhammer vibe, and this is the paint to do it. Now for the actual basing part, I used some foliage from AK, summer undergrowth from Army Pander, and I picked up something I haven't tried before. It's a base-ready mixture from Geek Gaming Scenics. It's a pre-made mixture of different grains of sand and flocking. This is to give me a nice result in a shorter period of time. I also picked up some green shrubs from them as well. So the next step was to add PVA glue to the base and drop the model in the mixture of Geek Gaming Scenics. Clean up the rim for the base for any excess foliage, and then let it dry. Once it's dry, I add some dots of PVA glue and add some of the other vegetation. With that, I repaint the rim of the base with goblin green to make it a bit more vibrant. And that's it, the models are done. Here's some photos of the models all painted up. So, how much of my army is painted currently? Well, at the moment I have 20 handgunners, 18 greatswords, 40 spearmen. I'm still painting the crew of the cannon, and I still need to paint some commanders as well. Currently, I'm working on painting Demogryph Knights and a Grandmaster on Demogryph. My next video for the project will show you how I paint the Grandmaster in golden armor. Also in the works is making a Bretonnian warband for Mordheim. This was voted by the community in my most recent poll, so expect to see that video next. I hope you enjoyed the video and subscribe to see more content like this. Take care, everyone.